So this is going to be a sit-down talk about some of the favorites that I've been enjoying recently. Mostly photographers and one book. I don't own a lot of books because I don't really see the value in owning a ton of books that just sit on a shelf. But I do have one that I particularly enjoy, and that is Boys by Rosie Matheson. If you didn't know, I used to have an RZ67, and most of the reason why I purchased that camera is because of Rosie's portraits. They're very, very intimate, and the ability to get close with the RZ67 is what drew me towards purchasing that camera. But I purchased this book right when it came out, and it was a very good decision on my part because it's a wonderful book, wonderfully laid out, and it's incredibly big, over 250 pages of portraits, landscape photos, everything in between, and there's just a lot of stuff in there that really draws you in. And there's all kinds of things in this book that set it apart from other photo books. She scans wrappers of film, she scans passports. It really draws you into the traveling that she did for this project. And there's handwritten notes by people that she took portraits of, and text messages that people sent her for the project. And I just think it's a really creative way to make a photo book. And that's something that I'm in between when it comes to making my own photo book. I want to make it creative like that, but I also want it to be more basic in the sense of just photos. So I'm kind of in between both of those right now. And maybe down the line, I'll make a more basic traditional photo book, and then I'll make a more creative one like this.
A lot of really inflammatory photography started happening at that time. A lot of people who had been in quarantine kind of viewed it as this opportunity to go out and kind of make this groundbreaking work. But a lot of the kind of ethics of what was happening were odd, and everything was so new. And Austin was kind of a hotspot for the protest. I'm sure, as you remember, there was a lot of, heavy protest and violence going on at the time. And so, yeah, I worked on that project, and I would say that was the beginning of what has now been a few month run of commissions for me. I'm currently sequencing my third book titled I Can't Stand to See You Cry. The book is a collection of photographs taken over the last maybe year and a half of my father's life, and a lot of them were taken during the quarantine. And it's a very special project to me. My father, he meant a lot to a lot of people in Austin and just in Texas. And so I'm very interested to see how those kind of lines of fine art photography, but also just a true tribute to my father, how those lines will be, merged. And I've always had this idea of being able to change the narrative of something that happened with my photographs within my family. And, the way that the things that were really tough will be remembered are going to be a little bit more comical and lighter because of the photographs that we have.
But I really connected with his work because the project that he has coming out in the future, hopefully this year, I'm definitely going to be picking up a copy of it. It's a project in a photo book about his father's illness. And if you guys didn't know, my dad passed away 2 years ago from multiple myeloma, which is a blood and bone cancer. And at the time, I wasn't really into photography, and I wish I was, because I would have loved to document his sickness, because I myself didn't get to take a lot of photos of my father because I really wasn't into photography at the time. Growing up, I took snapshots every now and then, but I wasn't really into portraits and taking photos of my family and things like that. So I really wish I would have found photography earlier, because even though his sickness and his cancer was terrible and there was a lot of sadness in that, when you hear Rahim talk about it, it really brings to light the fact that you need to document good and bad things. And I think that's what I got most out of hearing him talk and looking at his work. The next person is Sarah Epstein, and I don't think she has a website or anything, but she does have an Instagram account. And I found her on Reddit because she posted a portrait of her mom working on an airplane, which was a badass portrait overall, but it was on large format. And that got me into the line of thinking that I wanted to take more large format portraits, because the detail in it and the depth of the image was incredible, and you really felt like you were there and that you could connect with the person that you were taking a photo of. So it really pushed me into taking more large format portraits, and that's partly the reason why I got rid of my Pentax 6.7 and switched over to 8x10. That's going to be coming in the future, but that's just another conversation entirely. But she talks on the Analog Talk podcast about taking more pictures of her family and her fiance, and that's something that I definitely need to do. It kind of relates to the same thing that Rahim was talking about. And I just want to be better about taking photos and documenting the people that are in my everyday life. And I think she inspires me to do that. And the fact that she just sold all her medium format stuff and jumped right into 8x10 and is doing that, that kind of pushed me down the same line of jumping into 8x10.
I think most of my work is about making people feel good and making Black people in particular feel good. I think like countering this narrative that we're often fed through the media that Black life has very little happiness and that it's full of suffering when it's not, and there's so much beauty in it. I see it every day. I see it in my family members, and I see it in my friends and lovers, and I don't know, I think that's something that's important to show, and just trying to showcase joy and, like I said, make people feel good and gain better control over a narrative and my narrative. I feel like my relationship with photography is constantly evolving. It's never one thing. It's something that can make me feel better. It's something that can make me feel happy and sad and empowered. And I referenced this before, but it's a way I can tell my own story and control my own narrative and make work that just makes me feel good and makes other people feel good.
The next person is Braylen Dion, and he has a YouTube channel. He doesn't have many videos or subscribers or anything, but I'm hoping he puts out more work because not only is he a photographer, but he's a director as well, and he makes really beautiful video work. And I can see the inspiration that he gets from movies like Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. He actually mentioned Beale Street in one of the video descriptions that he made. And I can definitely see that correlating to his photography. It's very colorful, very intimate. And as you can see, a lot of these people that I'm mentioning are portrait photographers, not a lot of landscape stuff. That might be in a future video, but I'm just really into portraiture right now and trying to take photos that best represent the person. And I think that's what everyone wants to do when they do take a portrait, but I think he does that incredibly well, and you can tell by the photos that he takes that the people in front of the camera are incredibly comfortable around him, and I've never met him before, I've never talked to him, but you can see that through his photos that people are comfortable, and he makes them feel like themselves around him. The next person is Tom Humble, and he is a YouTuber. You probably have watched him if you've watched my videos. The thing that inspires me about him right now is that he's making a project in London about the South End, and he talks in the video about being nervous and shy about going up to strangers, and at the end of one of the videos, he ends up going up to a person that he doesn't know and taking their portrait. And I think that's a very brave thing to do because not a lot of people know how hard that is to do that. And I myself, I still get nervous when I go up to strangers and take portraits. And he mentioned me in that video as getting inspiration from me. And that means the world to me because I think myself, I want to take portraits of strangers because growing up, I was always a shy person. And I think that's just me trying to break through and be more comfortable around strangers and taking photos of them. And if I can get inspiration from someone else doing that, then everyone watching this video can get inspiration as well. So it makes me feel good seeing other people tell people online their fears and what makes them scared. And I think that's a great thing to do. You can't always put on this face that you're some perfect human being who never takes a bad photo and never has anxieties about anything. From the very get-go, I wanted this to be authentic and honest, and I think that's the best way to do it. And seeing Tom in his videos only makes that fact even more pronounced for me. The last person that I want to talk about is Matt Marrash, and I think I mentioned him in the previous video that I did about people that inspire me, but I want to mention it again because I am getting into more larger format and darkroom stuff, and I think his videos are some of the best on YouTube that I've been watching recently. He has a video for literally everything there is to do with large format, barrel lenses, just shooting film from a paint can. Like, he's not afraid to experiment. You can tell the experience that he has and the information that he gives out. I'm not one to take information from anyone. You can kind of tell when someone knows what they're talking about, and you can definitely tell that Matt knows what he's talking about. The other thing that I enjoy about him is that he is in the Restore from Backup Discord server, and he's not shy about answering questions from people that are just wanting to learn how to do things. I asked him a question the other day about scanning 8x10, and he replied promptly, and that's just an authentic person wanting to spread information that they learned to people that are partaking in the same hobby or the same space that they're in. And partly why I wanted to make this video is because I posted on my Instagram story about people kind of dropping the ball in regards to pushing unheard voices out and getting those people heard. Black voices, voices of women photographers, gay voices, trans voices, pretty much anything that's not a white male like myself. And like I said, I think people dropped the ball because in June of last year, when the George Floyd stuff was happening, everyone said they were going to do things. They're going to be better about sharing photographers that are unheard, sharing work that's unheard, things like that. And I think people did that for around a week or 2 weeks, and then it kind of died down, and then everyone forgot about it because it's not popular anymore to be like that. And then a couple months ago, a big photographer shared his favorite photographers, and it was all males. So everyone got in a big frenzy about female photographers, and now that's kind of died off as well. But I just want people to be better about following through with what they say. And if you're going to do something and say something, just follow through with it and do it. Don't wait for people to pat you on the back. Just do it. I don't think I'm responsible, or I don't think anyone else is responsible to push out those voices if you have a platform, but I'm going to use my platform for good because I have a very little platform and it is growing, but I want it to be about people that don't get exposure, because I didn't get exposure, and I'm not talking about film photography or my photography in general. I'm talking about more my professional wedding work, because it took me a long time to get pushed out of that little bottom feeding area. And if I can help someone else get out of that and push them forward in their career or their artistic work, then I'm going to do that. It took me a long time to find wedding work because I wasn't popular and I wasn't trying to make connections all the time. I was just doing the work and doing my best and working with the clients and making my clients happy. And if I can be that little voice for people that don't get the recognition that they deserve, then I'm going to be that. And I think if you want to start a channel or you want to be a voice in any type of community, then you should be prepared to take the time and energy to push those voices out. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say. I'm not going to make a very long outro because I've noticed in my YouTube analytics that people just skip the outro most of the time. It goes down to like 15% of people watching. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I'm going to make more like this. I'm going to continue to speak my mind. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave some comments down below who is inspiring you right now. And I look forward to hearing your comments. Appreciate it. See ya.